the Armed Forces provides amazing training.
I think about veterans as people who have already figured out how to serve.
My military skills have been essential.
Hiring veterans is a great business case. They're the best employees we have. They're flexible, hardworking, and they're used to a global workplace.
If that isn't an asset to any company, I don't know what is.
Hiring America, the award-winning television job fair for American veterans. Connecting you with companies who know your value. Learn about employers who are actively hiring today and organizations that support veterans. Your future success starts right here on Hiring America. Hiring America is produced in cooperation with the VFW. No one does more for veterans.
Welcome to Hiring America, the television series that helps military veterans find jobs and transition into meaningful careers. I'm Andrea Vasquez. Today, we're at the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the largest annual heavy-duty trucking industry event in the world. We're speaking with companies that are actively hiring veterans and with organizations who serve the military community. We're also talking with veterans like you who've made successful transitions into the civilian workforce. We'll help connect you to the job openings and give you information to get you the job you deserve. Log on to our website, hiringamerica.net, for more information, and follow us on our Facebook page and Instagram.
If you know a family member, relative, friend, and they're thinking about going in the military, encourage them to do so. They will be better Americans when they leave, because they will leave the military with a love of country stamped on their heart.
Patrick J. Murphy was appointed Acting Secretary of the Army by President Obama in January 2016. In this role, he's responsible for all matters relating to the United States Army, including 1.4 million soldiers and the Department of the Army Civilians. He joins us here from the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky. Secretary Murphy, thanks for joining us here on Hiring America.
It's great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
President Obama recently appointed you to this position just in January. What does this job entail?
So I'm the Acting Secretary of the Army. So I'm the civilian leader of the U.S. Army, and that's 1 million soldiers and about 400 civilians. But of the 1 million soldiers, the majority of them are actually not on active duty. The majority are National Guard members and reservists, but we are one team, one fight. And as you know, when a governor or the President of the United States, calls 911, they call our Army for our natural disasters here at home, whether it's to fight Al-Qaeda or ISIS overseas.
And this morning, you were talking about ESGR and the statement of support that companies are signing to employ members of the Guard and Reserve. Can you tell me why that's important and what's going on with that?
Today was a huge day. Today we had 69 employers, really in the transportation industry for the most part, trucking specifically, to say we will hire these veterans. We see these leaders of character who have shown initiative, who have shown what it's like to be part of a team, and that live by an ethic of duty, honor, country. Sometimes we forget that these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, they're the longest wars in American history, about 15 years. And it's less than 1% of America that we've asked to serve in them. Our veterans are all over our country, but they are civic assets. They are the little league coaches, the pastors, they're the teachers. And we need to recognize that they have a lot more to offer, whether they serve for 3 years, 30 years. They're gonna give back to our community and our country for a lifetime.
When you were in Congress, you worked on some key legislation to help veterans. Can you tell me about some of that?
Sure. Listen, when I was in Congress, I was at the first term, I was the only Iraq War veteran elected, and I felt a real responsibility for my generation of veterans to make sure I made their transition when they come home better. So I co-authored the post 9/11 GI Bill to make sure, and that's already helped 1.6 million veterans go back to college or trade school or get some training if they need it to go succeed, whether it's in trucking or other industries. But I also, supported things. I wrote the bill that repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that bill, at the time, it's kind of funny when we look back now, it was controversial. But in the military, we believe in equality. We believe that we treat everybody with dignity and respect. We don't care what color or creed you are. We don't care if you're gay or straight. Can you get the job done? Can you carry an M4 rifle? Can you kick down that door? Can you lead and be part of a team for a greater good? And those are the things that we look for the next generation of folks coming in to our ranks.
Today, what do you see as some of the biggest issues concerning veterans?
The Army 5 years ago had a budget of over 240 billion. Today, we're asking for about 140 billion. And that's with an increased op tempo when you look at Russia and what they're doing in the Ukraine, when you look at ISIS, which wasn't around 5 years ago, or Al-Qaeda, or North Korea that's getting more and more volatile. So the operational tempo is getting much higher, but our budgets, we've had a 40% cut. And we're proud to be America's varsity team, but we have some real fiscal constraints right now, and we need to be ready for not just to fight tonight, but also to fight in the future. You know, when America gives her sons and daughters to us, to our Army, we have to make sure that they are trained and ready, and that if we put them in harm's way, they better have the advantage over our enemy. We better do everything possible to train them like they fight, and so they can come home to see their families again.
We'll be back with more of Hiring America in a moment.
Continue the conversation on our Facebook page and Twitter, and visit our website at hiringamerica.net. Submit a video with advice to help transitioning veterans entering the civilian workforce.
There is life after the military, and that's what we're going to talk about. This is time that you've earned for you and your family, having served faithfully and honorably for this great nation. You are precious, irreplaceable, and a national treasure. I wish you the best in your transition and in your new life as an American citizen outside of the military.
Go to hiringamerica.net/contest and you could win a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga.
Hire these great Americans. Hire these great Americans. Whether they're coming off of active duty or whether they're National Guard Reserves, you know, ESGR, you guys are leading the way, making sure that they have, you know, if they have to deploy, you know, they, every summer they have to go to the way for 2 weeks, you can manage. But we need you to hire these great Americans.
Tell me about your transition process.
When I got out of the Army, and I left the 82nd Airborne Division down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I went back home to Pennsylvania. I shortly then, after ran for the U.S. Congress, I had, at the time, luckily my opponents didn't know this, but at the time I had $322 in my bank account. I was running my first race ever. I didn't come from a political family. My dad was a vet and a Philadelphia police officer. My mom was a Catholic nun. Luckily for me, she left the convent. But I ran for the U.S. Congress, and a lot of folks said, well, Murphy, you're not a, you know, you might have a great story, you taught at West Point, you got a Bronze Star in Iraq, but you have no money, and it takes a lot of money to run. And I said, listen, I'm doing this for the 19 men I served with that never made it home. I'm doing this to make sure we have a voice in Congress so that they can't cut our combat pay like they tried to do when I was in Baghdad. And so when I got to Congress, I wanted to make it worth it. And I knew that whether it was going to be 2 years, 4 years, whatever, how long ever I served in Congress, and now as a Secretary of the Army, that I'm going to do what's necessary to fight for my fellow soldiers. I believe, you know, I wouldn't have been a professor at West Point at age 27, teaching constitutional law, if it wasn't for the Army. I wouldn't have been a U.S. Congressman at age 33 if it wasn't for the U.S. Army. I wouldn't be the acting Secretary of the Army at age 42 if it wasn't for the U.S. Army. I mean, the Army has given me so much, and I believe in principles like post-traumatic growth. You go through these things that are extremely difficult. You see the best and the worst in people. And you have a brotherhood and a sisterhood of folks that you are fighting with and that you are there with for a greater good. And I think as a nation, we forget, you know, we sent the U.S. Army into Bosnia and Kosovo. Why? Because they were killing Muslims on the side of the road in towns like Srebrenica. That ethnic cleansing, which was the worst ethnic cleansing in Europe since World War II, that didn't end until it was the U.S. Army. And you look at Afghanistan right now. There's millions of girls right now in Afghanistan that are going to school for the first time because of the U.S. Army and the military. So we have a lot to be proud of, but we have a lot of work ahead of us as well.
Why are you passionate about your program, Soldier for Life?
Soldier for Life is a great initiative where we are partnering these public-private partnerships with private industry and nonprofits to make sure that they know the civic assets that we have. You know, to us, it's a readiness issue. You know, America looks at the Army and they say, are we ready to fight tonight? Are you keeping our families safe? Well, for the last 5 years in the Department of Defense, we've spent $4.6 billion to pay unemployment benefits. Because when our soldiers leave, if they don't get a job, we have to pay their unemployment. We're any other employer. Spending money on unemployment, that's not money you can spend on salary. It's not money you can spend on healthcare. It's not money we can spend on brigade combat teams. And that's where our focus needs to be. So that's why it's so great that you see employers, you know, here in Louisville, that, you know, 69 of them today, but other folks that are hiring our Army veterans and other military veterans and saying, these are leaders of character. These are civic assets. We want them in our organizations because they know what it is to put the team first. They know what it is to take initiative. They know what it is to live a life of honor and of character.
Secretary Murphy, thank you for joining us here on Hiring America.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This Military Minute is brought to you by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. The VFW has a place for you.
There's a word we hear a lot these days, but somehow it's lost its meaning. Heroes. But who are the real heroes? I've known heroes, real heroes, men and women whose sacrifice served a nation. When the guns are silenced and the battlefields grow quiet, they're still fighting. But without our support, it's a war they'll never win. They need our help. The kind of help America's veterans get from the VFW. Help with their VA benefits claims, with school and jobs, help accessing complex medical care, and making ends meet. The VFW is there for them. Will you be there for them too?
Hiring America will be back in a moment. The U.S. trucking industry has committed to hiring 100,000 veterans in the next 2 years. Military experience, regardless of MOS, is highly valued. One of the leading employers of veterans in the trucking industry is J.B. Hunt.
My name's Rick Santowski, and I was a submarine officer for 20 years. Peacetime Navy, we fought in the Cold War. I've been with J.B. Hunt for 20 years. The military is a good fit for both the person looking for a job and for the trucking industry. So much of life on the road is similar to what you experience in the military. When I was in the military, I was often on the road, changing stations or going from one place to another. Trucking needs mature people who are mission-oriented, who understand dealing with government rules and regulations and obeying them and still getting the job done. People who are capable of working on their own without anybody watching on their shoulder, because in a truck it's just you and the truck. It's like the best of both worlds. In a way you're your own boss, and in a way you don't have the worries of running your own company. Working at J.B. Hunt is good because you know you're working for people that have your trust. If they didn't trust you, you wouldn't have this expensive machine under your command at all times. You've got independence, and at the same time you've got full support.
J.B. Hunt Transport Services was founded in 1961 and started with only 4 trucks and 7 trailers. Today, this company is one of the largest transportation companies in the U.S. For 9 consecutive years, GI Jobs placed J.B. Hunt in the top 25 of its annual Top Military-Friendly Employers list. Joining us here at Fort Sheridan Reserve Center to talk about J.B. Hunt and their commitment to hiring members of the military community is their military program manager, Dave Harrison. Dave, welcome to Hiring America.
Thank you.
Tell us about J.B. Hunt.
Well, J.B. Hunt is very diverse and a very stable company. We're the largest intermodal provider in the country. We have 1/3 of all the intermodal containers in North America. And dedicated contract service runs, we're the largest provider for that service as well. In 2008 and 2009, in the worst economic times we've had since the Depression, we didn't lay drivers off. And so, and the kind of diversity we have allows us to be on the cutting edge of the market share, regardless of what happens.
We understand that the trucking industry is committed to hiring military veterans, but why is the U.S. Army Reserve a great place to find great employees?
Well, especially in this day and age, so many of the reservists have had active duty periods, and like every other arm of the military service, who better to be able to overcome obstacles in a logistical environment and be able to provide consummate professional service everywhere, which in our industry, that's all we provide is service. If you don't provide service, we don't have anything to do. So what we need in our industry are specifically the skill sets that all military service members have, and reservists in particular, because they're integrated in the community already, are a particularly great population for us to pull from. Quite often we found, in our case, the reservists have a much better retention rate and end up being our top drivers once we are able to train them.
For reservists, it's all about balance. How does the trucking industry help ensure that reservists can have the balance between their military lifestyle and their civilian career as well?
We offer local positions and quality home time and outstanding benefits, and we support all ESGR commitment, and we pay a differential pay in case they get deployed. So in that case, it helps to balance throughout the entire process of being able to serve your country and be able to serve your family.
J.B. Hunt actually hires their employees before they go to school, is that right?
Well, in the transitioning service members, we make a commitment to them. We actually will do a whole vetting process. We'll bring them in, have an orientation, we clear them, and when they go to CDL school, if it's a driver, we will pay them a salary while they're at school. They go direct to training to an account that they already knew what the position was before we ever hired them.
Why is it so important for J.B. Hunt to hire members of the military and veterans?
Mr. Hunt is a veteran himself, and we've made a commitment to hire 10,000 veterans by 2019. And we're going to achieve that goal. We just had a Veterans Day ceremony where we awarded military coins to over 250 veterans at our corporate headquarters. It's a very personal thing for all of us involved in the process. And quite frankly, it makes good business sense. By and large, the veterans make better employees, they're much more committed, and they're much more professional.
How does it make you feel personally to know that J.B. Hunt is doing?
Well, I am a veteran, and it's serving two things. You're serving people who have served us, and you're serving the country, even now, perpetually, because in our industry, everything that you have, everything you see was brought to you by a truck. And if we're not putting new, safe, professional drivers in the market, then that's going to affect everyone and everything.
Tell us about your military experience.
I took a medical retirement discharge after being injured coming out of a helicopter. I saw action in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Somalia, and Panama. I was in the United States Army Infantry. At 14 years of service, I got injured, and that was the end of my career.
You were recently recognized by the United States Chamber of Commerce.
J.B. Hunt's Heroes Program, we were honored because we were nominated for Steve Robinson Post 9/11 Employer of the Year Award. And we were a finalist, and I'm very proud of our organization. Many of our people worked very hard to just be recognized.
What's next for J.B. Hunt in terms of reaching out to the military community?
In this last year, we've tripled our entire hiring effort from the previous year. We're going to do at least double this year coming forward. We're going to continue our integration with both local services offices, because we're now a national apprenticeship provider through the Department of Labor. And so building that bridge to employment and certification and licensure, we're expanding that effort. And so we're hoping we will be at about 60% of our 10,000 veterans hired by the end of next year.
What advice do you have for a reservist who's interested in a job at J.B. Hunt?
Well, first off, go to jbhunt.com to the military section and call one of the people at Hunt's Heroes Program. Everybody there is a veteran, and everybody there has been a combat veteran. And we have reservists, current reservists that work for us at that department. And everybody there is committed to helping all reserves, all armed services. And we will build a bridge to a meaningful career if you're willing to participate in the process.
Dave, thanks for joining us here on Hiring America.
Thank you very much for having me.
Check out these companies and organizations actively seeking veterans. Hiring America will be back in a moment.
Thanks for watching. The information we've just shared is all on our website, hiringamerica.net. Log on and find out more about companies who are hiring veterans. And don't forget to connect with us on our Facebook page and Instagram. I'm Andrea Vasquez. Join us next week for another edition of Hiring America.
Hiring America is produced in cooperation with the VFW. No one does more for veterans. Promotional consideration provided by JetBlue, a proud employer of those who've served. This program made possible by the generous support of the following companies: